Okay, so this is Mickey Rowland. We're starting our Nantucket Commission and Non-Disability meeting on Zoom. It's January 31st. And I'm going to take roll call to see who's present. Georgia,
Yes.
Mary Beth,
I'm here.
Augie,
Here.
Rocky,
Here.
and that's all we have from our commission. Missing is Jeanette, and soon to be on is Nancy Swain, but she's not here either. So running down the agenda, we're just going to adopt the agenda as it's written unless there's any objections. It really isn't any public comment. I'm going to skip the approving of the minutes till later. And then I'm going to turn the meeting over to, I'm going to start with Ben Hutchins because
Can everyone introduce themselves,
that's
I
a good
guess?
idea. Yes,
Yeah.
so I'm going to, Georgia, go,
Yes.
you start. Go ahead.
I'm Georgia Snell. What do you want me to say? I'm an old person.
That's good. Mary Beth and Augie, you want to say hello?
Hi there, I'm Mary Beth Maloney. This is
I am August Tchaikovsky.
And we also have Rocky. Do you want to just say hi, Rocky?
I am Rocky Fox. I'm a member of the Commissions on Disability Committee. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all.
And the guests, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry. Yeah, so my name is Ben Hutchins. I am the Learning Development Specialist at the Disabled Persons Protection Commission.
Nice.
I'm Eddie Murphy. I work with Elder Services of Cape Cod and the Islands, and I'm the Protective Services Director.
Perfect.
Great.
we loved you in Trading Places.
Victoria, you're muted. Are you?
Oh,
There you are.
okay.
Thank
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Gill. I'm the Director of Learning Development and Innovative Projects for the Disabled Persons Protection Commission. Thanks for having us today.
Great.
All right, so
Great. So a lot of this is fairly new ground for much of our commission. So I'm going to really let our guests kind of explain what their roles are and how they're what kind of services they provide. So I'm going to start with Ben, and then just take it from there. So Ben, you're on.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Oh,
So
let me just stop you 1 second. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Karen from EOEA, EOEA's Assistant Director, will be joining. She just wanted me to let the group know. She's just running a couple minutes late, so she'll be joining too.
perfect.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Ben.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll just start with just introducing myself again. So like I said, my name is Ben Hutchins. I am the Learning and Development Specialist at the Disabled Persons Protection Commission. So what we do at the DPPC is we investigate claims of abuse or neglect against individuals between the ages of 18 to 59 who may have experienced abuse in their life. So we are the reporting hotline for those specific individuals. So we are a state agency, so we work with the Department of Developmental Services, the Department of Mental Health, as well as the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. We are statewide, so we work with a lot of DDS providers. We are the reporting agency, like I said, for all of those cases of abuse or neglect, specifically individuals between the ages of 18 to 59, and if the abuse was by a caregiver. But if there's any type of specific suspicion around abuse or suspicion around specific services, and people want to call, people should call that in to us because we are the reporting agency and the reporting hotline. Victoria, do you want to add anything to what I just said?
I suppose one unique feature of our organization, we do have a legal unit, and we also have
Yes.
a sexual assault response team.
Correct.
And those two units can be very helpful. Our legal unit, for example, they may even be able to assist someone with a guardianship matter, even if it's not a report of abuse that meets our jurisdiction at the moment, they're still available to help. community members in that regard. And also our sexual assault response team, they really help folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities find therapists that have cross training in effective communication with people with disabilities. So just thought I'd call out a couple of our
Perfect.
special features there. And I believe Taryn's in the waiting room.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Also going along with that, and just because this reminded me, we also have a state police detective unit that works on the same floor as the DPPC. I will say that they are independent of the DPPC, but if there is specifically a criminal case, the state police detective unit would be notified if there's any potential criminal matter when that call is reported to our intake unit. And then our state police detective unit can screen that in and work with a civil investigator to specifically investigate that case as well.
Then I've got a kind of a general question for you. Without getting terribly specific, can you just come up with some examples of the abuse that you've dealt with? Things that we should be, well, just clarifying.
Yeah. So we investigate claims of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, as well as neglect and omission, as well as financial abuse. So if anything is falling within those specific realms, I will say physical abuse could be there's physical altercation or abuse by a caregiver towards an individual with a disability. And if someone, for example, saw that or heard about that reported, then, for example, they would call that into us because we are the reporting hotline. So that would be a specific example of a physical abuse case.
And those of us on Nantucket would call you directly also. There isn't a more local agency to deal with that.
Correct. So we are the reporting hotline for all this for statewide, so all of Massachusetts.
Okay.
To give
Ben,
you
I have a
another-
question. I'm sorry, go ahead, Victoria, please.
Sure, no problem. Just to give you another example, if you have any service providers that maybe there's a residential group home, for example. If there's a medication error in one of those group homes, the staff person would call us to report the medication error.
Yeah.
So someone,
And we
I'm sorry.
we do have also an entire indicators of abuse handout, which goes through in more specific like situationals around each of these types of abuse that I'm not sure if I sent it to you in the first email, but I can definitely follow up and send that to you as well.
Mhm. So I have a question. So somebody calls in and reports an abuse of like a caregiver abusing someone who has a disability, right?
Mhm.
Let's just say it's a physical abuse. Then what happens from there? I mean, so now you're on Nantucket. So how does this all work for someone here on Nantucket?
Yeah, so I mean, it would work the same as it would with anyone within statewide. So what would happen is that call would go to our 24/7 abuse reporting hotline. That call, if it was screened in, it would be then assigned to an investigator. That investigator would go out to the specific site where it happened. If there was any additional, like I said, potential criminal if the case was criminal in nature or any way, they would also be partnered with someone from our state police detective unit, who would then go out to that site and investigate that claim of abuse. And from there, figure out exactly what happened and write up a report.
Would we expect to see a state police officer handling it?
It would depend on the case. Like I said, if there was any type of criminal intent or there was something that was flagged as criminal in nature, then there would also be in partnership with a civil investigator, a state police detective officer, or someone from the unit.
But short of I mean, there is a state police barracks on the island. So somebody from Boston would come down, or is there somebody locally that would be assigned to this?
So our investigators are statewide. So we work. So we have Victoria. How many investigators do you know we have at the moment? It's around,
Oh, now I think we have
yeah.
100 at least.
Yeah, upwards of 100. And so they're
Up from 30.
statewide. Yeah. And so they are in like they are in like eastern, southern, western part of the state. So depending on where their location is, yeah, they would come out to the island.
Great. Any other questions for Ben?
I have another question. So you send someone out to investigate the abuse,
Mhm.
whether they're state police officer or not, and then you write up a report. Where does the report go?
So the report, it's if it's, for example, just a civil investigation, these would be recommendations. So it'd be recommendations that would go back to, let's say, the provider agency. Maybe it was like something around a specific medication, or like that was outdated, and there needed to be, for example, a retraining or around what is reportable, or there need to be an update or protective service that need to be put in place. Or a specific thing, that would be the case. But if it was, for example, more serious, like a criminal case, then that would go through the district attorney.
So you write the report up and you'd send it to the district attorney if it was a more serious offense.
Correct.
Okay.
All of our calls are screened by the SPDU for that reason, to see if there's a
Yep.
criminal element involved, and if there
Yep.
is, they take action accordingly.
Okay, so Eddie or Taryn, what can you add to the conversation?
Hi,
Sure.
everybody. Sorry for that. Tons of meetings in a day. I am Taryn Lee Turgeon. I'm the Assistant Director for Protective Service at the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. Oh, sorry, the Executive Office of Aging and Independence as of a week ago. Still getting used to it. I apologize for that. I can talk about the overview of what we do. We are very different than DPPC. So I can give the quick overview, and then Eddie, if you want to touch on where you're local and cover Nantucket.
Sure. Yep.
All right. So we are 60, we investigate abuse of anybody 60 or older residing in the community by somebody that they know. So a friend, acquaintance, sometimes, roommate, something like that. So there has to be kind of a personal connection there. We do not, in most cases, do staff. So we don't look into anybody who's a licensed healthcare professional is the Department of Public Health. So we do maybe a personal care attendant if it's that program, but most times if it's a paid service provider, that's not us. And we investigate physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, financial exploitation, caretaker neglect, and self-neglect. And again, in the community setting. There are some exceptions to that. Again, I apologize, I don't know too much about Nantucket, but if somebody's in a skilled facility and maybe the daughter or son are coming in and being, emotionally abusive on the weekends, and it's something of that nature, we would step in, but anything that was happening at the facility would be someone else. We also have the central intake unit that I sent you guys. All calls go through that 1-800-922-2275 or a web intake. And then, like I had said, there's 19 agencies that we contract. So those area service access points that do our investigations for us. And Eddie runs the department in your area that does those investigations.
Yeah.
So that's the big general overview.
Yeah, so just to back up a little bit, so Elder Services of Cape Cod and the Islands, we're a local private nonprofit agency. We've been around for over 50 years. We run a lot of programs, but you might be familiar with the Meals on Wheels program or the home care program. But like Taryn said, we're one of the 19 they call them ASAPs, Aging Services Access Points, agencies, essentially nonprofit agencies that do the protective services program. So we investigate reports of elder abuse across Cape Cod, Nantucket, and the Vineyard. So it's individuals age 60 and over that live in the community, so they can't be a long-term care resident in a nursing facility. They could be in a facility for like a rehab stay, but they can't reside in that facility. 60 years of age, living in the facility across the Cape and Islands. And like Taryn mentioned, there's usually a non-professional relationship between the elder and the alleged abuser. And how it works is we get, we can get the reporters can file either through the statewide hotline or on the web, through the mass.gov web-based reporting system. And anybody can file a report. Elders can file on themselves. You can file on your neighbor. The majority of the reports come from what we call mandated reporters, professionals like your fire, police, doctors, nurses, etc. But either way, we get the reports through that, either the hotline or the web. And we're based in South Dennis, but we have small offices on both Nantucket and the Vineyard. We have an office it's on 144 Orange Street on Nantucket, and within a housing authority, I believe.
Liaison.
Yeah, so we're based on, our office is based in South Dennis. And when we get reports, they're screened initially, and if they're screened into an investigator, then we have one dedicated worker out of our 11 case workers that covers the island. We have one that covers Nantucket for a year, and then for the Vineyard, we have two that alternate. So the worker who covers Nantucket will take the boat or fly over to do the assessment or the investigation. We investigate, like it's been mentioned, physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal or emotional abuse, neglect by a caregiver, and financial exploitation. But in addition, we also investigate reports of self-neglect. So these are individuals 60 years of age or older that are not meeting their essential needs. The most common report that we get is regarding self-neglect cases. Just there's a high number of older adults living alone without a caregiver, not meeting their needs. We get cases of hoarding, we get cases of people being evicted, substance abuse and alcohol concerns, a lot of different issues. But that's maybe a slight difference with DPPC. We have that self-neglect concern that we can look into as well.
And Eddie, if I can, we don't have any other criteria. There's no disability need. There's none of that. It literally is just 60 and older residing in the community. And the only other difference we don't do those criminal investigations. We do. I mean, they do investigate in certain cases, may go to the district attorney, or they may have to get the police involved depending on the situation. But we don't, most of our cases we're civil investigators rather than criminal.
Correct. So if we end up substantiating serious abuse or neglect, we're required to file a DA report, and the DA's office takes that, and they could go forward with the criminal case if they think that's appropriate. We often will get reports from like law enforcement. They might respond to a certain situation, and they may or may not be going forward with it criminally, but we actually have a different role in terms of a civil assessment. So, one thing just to make clear, we don't ever reveal who files the report. That stays anonymous. The only person that gets that would be the DA's office if they get involved. I'm trying to think. If you're a mandated reporter, if you're a professional, we can't screen out a case that you file without us making efforts to speak with you to make sure we're not missing anything. The time frame is we have 48 hours total from when we get the reports to screen it and decide if we're setting out a worker or not. Like a lower risk case, we screen out a number of cases. If they're not within our jurisdiction, if somebody's not 60 years of age, that's one thing. If they live in a nursing facility, but also if it's low risk, we might refer them to like an internal program first to see if they can address the concerns. So there are cases that are screened out, but if you are a professional or mandated reporter, we won't screen that out without having a conversation with you. But even as a non-mandated reporter, anybody who files a report, they can call our office for some follow-up to see was it assigned or not, and we'll share that information. Individuals have the right, meaning the individual subjects of the investigations, they have the right to refuse to participate in the investigation. We can't force anybody to share information. And oftentimes we will go out unannounced. Now with Nantucket, we have to consider like getting there, and so that is a factor. But generally speaking, program wide, we go out unannounced in most cases. If there's a domestic violence situation, or if we think it might be not might increase the risk to that individual, we would not go unannounced. Same thing, it would put the worker at risk, but generally we're going unannounced, and we can't reveal who files the report. So one of the biggest challenges that the workers have is when they go to the home, the first question is, well, one, who are you? Why are you here? Like, who called you? So that's a challenge that the workers have to face. But ultimately, we try to build rapport with them and have a conversation about the concerns. And then in terms of who else we talk to, it really depends on the case. It's very case specific. We have a process of determining, how much information we share, and we're always balancing the individual's rights and privacy with the need to complete the assessment and determine if they have been abused or neglected. So ultimately, we have 30 days to complete these investigations or assessments. So I go back and forth with investigations and assessments because for the self-neglect cases, not so much of an investigation, it's more like assessing their risk and trying to help them. So after 30 days, the worker and the supervisor kind of they interview the older adult, maybe definitely once, maybe twice. They talk to other collateral sources, gather information. And if they substantiate the allegation, essentially it goes into a status called ongoing services, which is usually a few months, a couple months at the most. And essentially what the worker does is meet with that older adult, review the fact that they found that they were self-neglecting or have been abused, and then put together a service plan to address the concern. Older adults have the right to refuse services, so we have to make those service plans. So we've substantiated some form of abuse or neglect or exploitation or self-neglect. What can be done to reduce the risk going forward? And we might think this is what has to happen. You need a restraining order, you need this or that, but if they don't want that, if they're not ready for that, we can't force that. So we have to kind of work with the individual to find a plan that they are comfortable with. And then the other big thing that factors into elder abuse cases in cases of self-neglect is what we call decisional capacity. Does the older adult have the capacity, the ability to understand the risks and consequences of the situation that they're in? So we deal with a lot of cases where the individual might have Alzheimer's or dementia, things like that. And so we have to kind of be aware of that. And so there are cases that if they are at risk of abuse or neglect or self-neglect or exploitation, and they might lack that capacity, there are times when we will work through the doctors and sometimes go through the courts for guardianships or conservatorship petitions. That's not common, but we do have that ability, and it happens. But most of the cases don't get to that level, and we're essentially working with that individual and their caregivers to decrease their risk.
Our program philosophy is least restrictive intervention, because
Yeah.
obviously, like Eddie said, these are adults, and as long as they have capacity, we can't force intervention or change on them.
Yeah.
And just so you guys have it, we are regulated under our regulations is 651 CMR 5.0. For all of our details, it kind of goes over the allegations, the process, and then we operate under Mass General Law 19A, sections 14 through 26. If I can send those over to you as well.
And for DPPC, all investigations are conducted under authority MGL 19C. I can also send you over those regulations.
And just kind of how like the intersection with DPPC and us, because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that DPPC will screen it to us automatically if they're over the age of 60, and then
Correct.
we look at it, and if it is a family member or a friend, then we'll take that case. But
Correct.
more often than not, it's like a staff member or a professional within maybe a DDS home or things like that. If that's the case, we refer it back to DPPC and DDS. So it'll automatically come to us based on age, and then we'll put it back to the more appropriate agency if it is a staff member who is alleged to have been abusive.
And if it's a combination of things, sometimes we do dual investigations, if there's kind of a self-neglect piece along with something else.
Right. So just in general, Elder Service of Cape Cod and Islands, we have our website has a lot of information about all the programs that we offer. Like I said, I don't know, Sherry Hunt is the local office. She runs the office on Nantucket. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Yep.
But yep, she's been there a long time. So but yeah, so there's a main number for our information and referral department for just Meals on Wheels, other programs and services. But if somebody needs to file a report of abuse or neglect or exploitation or self-neglect, it's that 1-800 number. If you need it, I can get it to you, but it's 1-800-922-2275, or going on the web, mass.gov, and you just search report elder abuse. Either way, it comes to the local agency based on the older adults where they reside. So if they live on the Cape or Islands, it'll come to our office, and we go through that screening process. And then if it's going to be investigated, we have a dedicated worker that will fly over, take the boat to Nantucket, and go try to see if we can help.
And I will say, you can always, I think it's a great relationship to have with Eddie if there are kind of questions or in generals. Unfortunately, even if you talk to him, he's probably, if you need to make a report, he is going to refer you back to one of those two methods. And I will say that's not on Eddie. That's usually that's on us. Obviously, if an older adult called and it would be too hard to transfer and they were calling, they can take the report. But in terms of, professionals reporting, we do want it to go through the central intake or the web intake, for tracking and reporting issues.
Great.
Yeah.
Just curious, most of us probably aren't really aware that these services do exist. And I'm just curious as to how, what sort of outreach do your programs do to get the general public this knowledge that they have options to turn to when something's going wrong?
We do a lot of work around World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in June. We've done some, like radio spots and have like a little rally, but that's on the Cape. In terms of, I do a lot of mandated reporter training. So I was over, and it's time to get back over on Nantucket. It was a couple of years back that I did the police department, and I've been in conversations with Sherry about getting back over and because there's been a lot of turnover, in terms of me or my supervisors training mandated reporters about filing. But in terms of the general public, like with this, we work a lot. We work very closely with the councils on aging and the senior centers to make sure that their outreach workers are aware of our services, because they're oftentimes, they're the ones that really know their specific community, because we cover the entire Cape and both islands. So through the senior centers is one way. I'm trying to think I was looking back in 2024, there were only about just under 30 cases that we had on Nantucket, which is a small amount compared to the amount of cases that we did have. And so that could be there may be a need for like more outreach on the island for sure, and I'm aware of that. And it also, anybody in the community, if they have concerns, they can call myself or one of the supervisors in protective services and just talk about, you don't have to give anybody's personal information. Just in a case like this, is this reportable? What would you advise? And we would have to, like Taryn said, you would have to file through the statewide hotline or online. I couldn't take the report, but you could always call one of us in the South Dennis office and just kind of discuss a situation, and we can maybe give you some advice.
And the executive office, we also do a lot of outreach and mandated reporter training. We're putting together a mandated reporter video. We often co-train with, go out and promote the program with, protective service directors like Eddie. So we do a lot of outreach that way. We have a somewhat social media presence, but we are, of course, a state agency, so it's not, a lot. But we average over 50,000 reports a year in protective services across the Commonwealth. So definitely no shortage of the information coming into us in terms of what we receive per year, and it grows every year.
Yeah, and then in terms of DPPC, similarly to what Eddie and Taryn were saying about mandated reporter trainings, I go out in the community. I do mandated reporter trainings for specifically DDS provider agencies, Massability, also provider agencies that are more independent or private or work throughout the state. Also, DDS provider agencies are required to have everyone who is in staff is required to have a mandated reporter training, and they learn about us through those mandated reporter trainings. So they are required to know about the DPPC and report all cases of abuse or neglect through our hotline. So we are also working on a public awareness campaign. So we are definitely working to update all of our materials. I believe I talked about that a little bit in our call in December. So we are updating our website, updating our materials, and kind of expanding our outreach in that way as well. So that's definitely something that's coming down the pipeline this year.
Okay, I just imagine that if somebody really doesn't know who to turn to, they might naturally talk to perhaps their doctor or the police department or those contacts, and those types of groups, I assume, are aware of your services.
We talk to doctors' offices, we talk to medical schools, we talk to the state police, local police departments, fire departments.
Yeah,
they invite us out on a regular basis. Again, like I said, nursing and medical schools, all the way starting there and up. So a lot of the hospitals have had us in for rounds.
And similarly with the DPPC, we do trainings in medical spaces for police officers, yeah, as well. So to be
Churches,
aware of our services as well.
the clergy and churches, things like that.
I've been a mandated reporter back when I was dealing with people. I had training.
Yeah.
I've spoken at a couple of churches over the years that if organizations reach out, myself or one of the supervisors will be we're willing to go talk to anybody about it for sure.
We have
Uh,
also done
I'm on our
trainings and
interfaith
services.
council. I can bring that up as a possible message. That would probably be really good. It would be really a good idea. It's been a long
It's
time.
a different I mean, it's the same information, but it's a different approach talking to mandated reporters compared to community members. It's a more challenging conversation to have, but it's equally important. So, most of my trainings with mandated reporters, but myself and the other managers are willing to do it with different groups in the community. So, if you're aware of groups that are interested, have them call me, and we can talk about it for sure.
I will. Yeah, I'll bring it up.
I have a question. So, so you said that you do trainings like at like hospital facilities, fire department, and stuff. Have you done that on Nantucket? That's
I've
curious.
done the police department was a couple of years back,
Okay,
and the COA was a few years back, but I haven't done it not within the past couple of years. So
okay.
I spoke with Sherry recently about getting back out here to Nantucket and doing that, reaching out. I think there's different leadership in those positions now with the fire in place than what the last time I was out there.
Yeah.
And similarly, not in my time. I've been with the DPPC for about 2 years. Not in my time have I gone out to Nantucket, but definitely happy to do that.
And most of our trainings are by request. We can't,
Right.
we can't mandate the trainings or anything like that. So again, when we get into those schools or the police departments, it's usually by request. I mean, if we're struggling with a certain like police department or fire department, maybe in some of our larger cities, we might reach out and offer that training. But yeah, mostly it's by request.
Yeah, the majority of looking back at the cases that we get from Nantucket, it's usually police, fire, and the hospital for the most part. We get other people and agencies, and just like I said, elders themselves can file a report, or people can file on their family member or their neighbor. But the majority of the reports that we get, and we look at them all equally, but the majority is fire, police, and the hospitals and things like that, social workers and doctors.
What about the counseling center or the school? Do you get requests from them?
Not too many that I can think of. I mean,
Just curious.
Yeah, not too many. Because we do work with individuals between the ages of 18 to 59. The DPPC, as well as the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, works with individuals
Right,
16
that's
years
why I
old and
wondered.
older. So yeah, with schools, but I have done trainings in some schools, specifically because a lot of schools do still work with individuals ages 18 to 22, especially if they have a disability.
Okay.
I have a question. So if you were invited to do a training out here, say with just like the police department, fire, hospital, or a group and stuff, who does the advertising? How does the word get out? Is it the group that it would be the fire department that has to put the message out that you're coming for the training, or do you put that message out that, hey, we're coming to Nantucket, call this number if you would like to attend this training session or this information session, whatever it might be. How does it work?
it's
So-
you. Oh, go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
Yeah. No, so for how I usually do it is I have a specific contact person that I'm in touch with, that we set up the training, that we go back and forth, decide on a particular date, and then that contact person on their end disseminates that information out to all of the community members that are welcome to attend that training. So that is the usual protocol in which I take.
And I think
For
it's
me,
the same on our end. It's usually, and again, Eddie, you can speak specifically. Ours, usually somebody asks if we're holding an event, like Eddie said, around World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in June. Obviously, we will publicize that, but usually it's whoever's inviting us. We just tell them, invite who you want to invite. The more, the merrier. Get as many people as we can in one shot. Eddie?
Yeah, it's usually like an in-service for an agent for a VNA or a police department, and they ask me or one of my staff to come and do a training for whoever shows up on their end. The only the other way that it happens occasionally, like if we're having some frustration with a certain agency or department, we might reach out to see if we can have a meeting or a training. But usually it's I'll get a call from a certain council on aging or a fire department and say, hey, it's been a couple of years that we did mandated reporter training. Can you come on out sometime in the next couple weeks or months? That's normally how it happens, and they kind of take over who's in the room. So, or if we're aware of situations that happen and we don't get reports and we're curious, why didn't we get reports about something that we're aware of? We might then reach out and offer a training. But usually it's the agency department that kind of figures out who's going to be at that training, whether it's a small conversation, or a bigger kind of training.
I'll also say that the DPPC, we on our website, you can sign up for a bi-monthly mandated reporter training. So the first Thursday and the third Thursday of every month, I host a training online. So community members and anyone who wants to participate in that training, they can sign up just via our website. So let's say, for example, there are individuals that maybe aren't able to attend this larger Nantucket training. They can still get that training through our website as well, because I'll be live doing that twice a month, every month.
So when you talk about training, so it'd be training how to report a case, right? But do you also, say if you were going to come out here to Nantucket, do you also tell them what your services are? Like just kind of like what you're doing with us right now.
Yeah.
Like how everything works.
Yes. So I definitely provide a brief introduction about the DPPC. I also go through our jurisdiction, the specific population that we work with, and kind of how our agency fits in with adult protective services in general. So go through all that information. It's not as it's not like this specific conversation, just because the trainings themselves are about an hour in length. So I don't go into too much detail about that, but I'm always happy to answer any questions. But the main bulk of the training is specifically around what a mandated reporter is, what you should be reporting, and then those indicators of abuse to look out for. What types of abuse should you be looking for, and what is reportable under Massachusetts state law to the DPPC.
And Eddie, I'm sure you've done joint trainings with your home care department and.
Yeah, I always start with kind of going over the bigger picture, like we're part of an agency, because so many of a lot of cases are screened out and referred to internal programs, but also they also in part refer cases to us. So if the Meals on Wheels driver finds some, reports the condition of the home is not okay, that gets to us. So we really work closely with the other departments within elder services. So I try to kind of show the big picture when I do the trainings. And oftentimes agencies or groups will they'll be struggling with a certain component. So I try to tailor it towards what they're looking to learn. If it's more about like signs and symptoms of abuse and neglect, that's one thing. Or if it's more about the process and mandated reporting, it just kind of depends on what the individual or the group are, what they're looking for. But I certainly try to include like the bigger picture in terms of elder services and all the programs that we offer, in any kind of training. And we work, try to work really closely with the local COAs and senior centers too, because those outreach workers and directors, they know the towns in and out. That's why we have, for 1 year, we have one specific, so we have 11 full-time caseworkers. But we have one of them who's dedicated to come to Nantucket for a full calendar year. Then it rotates, and the reason we do that is just to kind of give them a chance to kind of get to know the people at the senior center, at the hospital, and we do the same thing with Martha's Vineyard.
I also want to mention too, we are a 24/7 program. We are, we do take reports 24/7. Our sentinel intake is 24/7. The Cape and the Islands and all of the ASAPs do have an on-call worker. It's not always going to be an immediate in-person response on that on-call, especially, if given the nature, it's a lot of working with community partners, like Eddie said, like, is there a fire department or an EMT or somebody else that can kind of assess that really urgent need if something comes in? But we are a 24/7 program, as DPP say.
Yes, our hotline's
Yeah.
also 24/7.
Yeah, we have always had a worker and a supervisor on call, and like the initial, after hours response usually isn't always usually is not like an in-person visit, but it's working with EMS and family members sometimes to kind of like make sure somebody's like safe for the night or safe for the weekend, make sure that we get the medications or food or whatever it might be. But yeah, we do have that on-call component.
Haven't we had a person on Nantucket that there was a friend of mine I know used to do this. I don't know if he's still doing it though. His name was Brian, but anyway, he was on call for everything, all these things. All this.
Yeah, and even so normally we're going out within 5 days. Most of our cases we call it's a routine response, but generally we're going out within 5 calendar days. And even that is just with schedules and stuff with and taking a flight or a boat. It's a challenge coming from the Cape, but like we work really hard to make sure that no matter where on the Cape or what island or what of the islands, that it's the same program, the same service that we can provide as best we can. So that's the goal. But a lot of the on-call after hours responses is phone calls and coordinating with the community partners.
And that's not just with the unique islands,
That's
Cape and the
the-
Islands. That is across the state. Usually it's
Yeah.
working with those community partners. So I also do want to mention, if you guys want to take a look, there are the first time federal adult protective services regulations that just went into effect last May. We have a few years to become fully compliant. I'm happy to say that we've always followed the national guidelines that have kind of been, suggested. So we're not far off. But just so you know that those first time federal regulations in place, which is kind of exciting for us, it could mean some new opportunities. And if you just look at National Adult Protective Services federal regulations, it's very long. I would start with ours for now, and then everything you really need to know is in there. But just thought it was worth mentioning because it is a big deal. I mean, we've been around since 1982, and this is the first time we've had federal regulations.
Okay. Looking at my committee members, anybody else have any questions? Doesn't really look like it. Well, Brenda?
No, my next goal is to have them do a training out here on Nantucket, whether it's at the Salt Marsh Center or wherever it might be, just like, I would really like people to know that, I'd like more people to know that you exist, not just the firefighters, the hospital workers, the police department. Only because I know of someone reached out to me about a friend of theirs was financially abused here on Nantucket, and it kind of just they said, what can I do about it? And I said, go to the DPPC. I not knowing that this person was over 60, but nevertheless I was there like, okay, so where do people go? And that's what kind of started this whole conversation. Like I was talking to Mickey, and then we talked to Ben Hutchins, and he just kind of clarified a lot of stuff about the age ranges of like what agency takes over at what age. And this is all new information for me, that's for sure. And I would just like see if we can get the community educated about your services, and and I would just I would feel like part of Massachusetts if we did. How's that?
Of
Sure.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and so that'd be my next step, is to reach out to you and
Yeah.
maybe set up some kind of a meeting over here,
Sounds
and
good.
and we'll work it out that way.
That sounds great.
Sure.
Does that sound good to all the commissioners?
Sounds good. This
Great.
is very helpful.
Yeah, excellent.
All right.
Thank you for
Okay,
having
well,
us.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for showing up. It's an area we haven't really dealt with or talked about much in the past, so this fills in a pretty big gap for us, I think. So,
It was
do
great.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You did a great job. You'll
Thank
be
you.
hearing from us again.
Thank
Yes, of course.
Looking forward to it.
I look forward to it too. Okay. Have a great weekend, you guys, and thank you.
you.
Thank
Yeah,
you
you
for
as well.
your
Happy
time.
Friday,
Have a
everyone.
great
you so
weekend.
much.
Yep,
Thank you.
you
Bye-bye.
got it.
Bye.
So that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything anybody wants to mention about that? What we just learned?
I didn't realize who they were. I didn't pay attention to who was going to be the speakers. So, but I have been aware, and I have actually worked with both of those organizations back, but a long time. It's been a while since that's been in, something I did, but I did know about both of them as a mandated reporter. So we have had training in the past for the clergy to do that. So yeah, it's come up over the years. So yeah, but I just didn't look at what their groups were. I didn't pay attention to what the groups were. So
I
sorry.
think in the email that I sent out, I said, this is the list of our guest speakers on Friday. So everybody's identified there in their role in the
I know.
organization that they're in. Okay, so I'd be happy to resend that also.
I have it. I copied it out and I said, oh.
I had it right next to me.
Right. Mm.
Yeah.
That was excellent, though. I thought that was really good. That was very clear. And Sherry Hunt is definitely the person. If you want to know anything, Sherry knows it. So she's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah. I thought Eddie did a great job explaining, his connection to Nantucket. I thought he did a really, really great job.
Yeah, he is great.
Yeah. Yeah. I can do a quick little update of what's been going on lately if anybody wants to hear it.
Yes, go ahead,
Okay.
Brenda.
All right. So Mickey and I visited do you want to tell us, Mickey, about the land bank? Or how do you
No,
want
you go ahead. I mean,
All right. So Mickey and I were with Eleanor from with the land bank. We were out at the racquetball, the racket courts out there on Hinsdale Road, and it's land bank property, but I think the people that run the courts actually lease it from them, and they're in charge of like all the accessible components of it. And anyways, they're gonna install more courts. They're doing some work out there. So now we look at it accessibility point of view. So we reach out to them, and we suggested boardwalks all the way through and around the courts and everything, because they wanted something that could drain. Gravel, forget it, and something that was non-slip. So we totally recommended boardwalks. But while we were there, we also went to out to the NISTA property out on Marwinet Road, and I don't know there's a parking area there that's supposed to be accessible, that's not accessible. There's supposed to be a path that's accessible, that's not accessible. In the past, the land bank has been using these molds, so to speak, that they put just below grade, and they were filling them with either pebbles, which were huge, or grass, which is totally overgrown. You don't even know where the path is. You don't know what's going on. And really those, the molds that they were using, first of all, grass is not an accessible surface, and anything that moves, such as pebbles, is not an accessible surface. It has to be steady and it can't move. And anyway, so we visited that area. We went out to the golf course, which is a nightmare when it comes to accessibility. I mean, they were supposed to put this trail in from the parking lot, from the
Skinner's
personal
golf
parking spaces, and all the way up to the clubhouse. And it is just an absolute mess. It's like even the people that don't have ambulatory concerns hates the path. Never mind anyone that does have ambulatory concerns. Mickey and I got to talk to the I think it's Billy Tanavich and Jack Moran are running the clubhouse there, and they just told us they hate this. They want to see changes. The people that come there and golf complain all the time. Okay, so that was the third place we looked at. Then someone called me about Long Pond. They have this beautiful dock that goes out into Long Pond. I mean, it is just magnificent, and it's completely accessible, except again, they put in these molds with these, they say pebbles, but they're stones, and they're all over the place. And someone got stuck out there with their husband in a transport chair. And so that was another place. And what was and then Lily Pond, they're doing a huge renovation there, and it's been very involved. It's a long process. We have been involved in this, but it's been, it's going on a year since we've been directly involved. So I reached out to them, we reached out to them again, we want to know what's going on and everything. So long story short, Mickey and I have a meeting with the people at the land bank on February 14th at 9 o'clock to discuss all these inaccessible features. And they want to do it right, and they're always looking, land bank's always looking for what is an accessible surface. I think they're looking for an aesthetically pleasing accessible surface, like the grass and the molds, right? Because they're all about nature and stuff. Well, it's not accessible. So I think the most attractive thing they can do is put boardwalks in. If they don't want asphalt, if they don't want brick, if they don't want concrete, then boardwalks is your answer, or tiles, so.
So
Anyways,
Brenda, will that work with NISDA as well? Because they're not land bank, are they?
it's land bank property out there.
Okay. NISDA is on land bank property?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I wasn't
It
sure. I
is.
didn't know that. Yeah, okay.
I don't understand that whole relationship, and we're gonna understand it better when we have this meeting with Rachel and Eleanor on the 14th. But they're all for, like, they're not fighting us on this accessible stuff. Rachel emailed me maybe yesterday and just said, when they put this out to bid, the contractor says this was a wheelchair accessible surface, and they told us that they were doing this, but they show it like as like this really like smooth, like it looked unbelievable, like way it's supposed to look. Well, it doesn't look anything like that. And again, I was looking up accessible surfaces because they were asking about them, and no way is grass accessible. No way is any kind of a pebble or a stone accessible. It's like so. Hopefully they'll get it right for us. They have deep pockets. Hopefully they'll get it right. And so we're going to meet with them on those 5 properties, which we're excited about. Someone brought to my attention, because I don't go to the football games, how inaccessible that area is. That field, from no accessible parking spaces near the entrance to the football fields. They have an asphalt path that goes down to the track, and the track is full of pedals. So that's where the accessibility stops, and they have no accessible route to the ramp on the bleachers, which is on the far side of the bleachers. They have no accessible route to the snack shack or to the porta toilets, and the porta toilets, they don't have any accessible porta toilets. So I took pictures. We sent an email to Beth. Like, she doesn't have enough stuff on her plate right now, right? With everything's going on in the but I sent her an email, and it was a nice email, showed her pictures and everything, and just we'd like to be able to meet to see how they can improve, to show them how they can improve accessibility there. This is the Mass Office on Disability. I was on a meeting for the ADA coordinators just last week, and there was this gentleman from Beverly, and he was also talking about their, I don't know if it's the football field or the baseball field or whatever, but it was so far removed from the accessible parking and everything. So they're kind of going through, like, how can they make this happen? And the person with the Mass Office on Disability goes, apply for a grant. Maybe they will put in the accessible route for you, and so they offer that grant. And so that kind of got me thinking, and I said to Beth, I goes, I says, I know, money's tight, budgets are tight, but I said, maybe if we can figure out something, how we can make this more accessible, put a plan together, we can file for a grant that might help out significantly. I think they gave about 10 communities just this past year $250,000, for either to improve accessibility or to remove barriers to create access. So anyway, I haven't heard back from her. Like I said, I know she has a ton on her plate, but I put it out there. It's just like, the football field, so many people go to the games. It's where the high school graduation is, and people in wheelchairs or people have ambulatory disabilities are left out. It's so difficult to get down there, and there's no accessible parking spaces in that area. So anyways, hopefully we can see a change in that. That's on our radar. How's that?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Great.
So now that I'm talking about the grant, we applied for the grant last year with the Mass Office on Disability to improve to extend the boardwalks at the Galley Beach, at Jetty's Beach, at Children's, put in like, platforms and stuff, and we were denied. We were looking for 41,000, almost $42,000. And, I was just so upset when they reached out to Libby and said that we were denied the application. So I reached out to the Mass Office on Disability. His name is Evan George. He's the one in charge of this. And I just want to know, why were we denied? Was it because I submitted a bad application, or because, everything we were asking for, they didn't see it as as a priority for access? I don't know what the reasoning was, but we have a Zoom meeting with Evan George, and he's going to discuss our application on February 13th, I think. February 13th, yeah. So I wanted to know why we were denied for many reasons, but also because I want to reapply. And I want to make sure that, okay, so if this didn't work this year, can we do something next year and maybe include some more stuff like the football field or whatever, And just like, it might be a humbling experience for me that I didn't do this properly, but I applied before and we got it. So we'll see what he has to say.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So
So
we can-
anyways, that was very disappointing.
Yeah.
Okay. Mickey and I had a meeting with a gentleman named Craig Piper. He's an architect, and he is the architect involved with the plans for the new Our Island home out at Sherburne Commons. If that ever happens or not. I have to say, I love the facility, the way it looks and everything. He was great. We had maybe a couple, maybe mostly about parking, I think. But they've done their homework on it. But we had we got to review the plans, and he wanted our input on it, which I thought was really a great thing. And so we did that. And then Augie mentioned at the last meeting a couple of places where he has difficulty getting into, or his wheelchair navigating. One of them was Millie's at the Rotary. Augie lives out in North Shop, so he's very independent, loves to be on his own. Right, Augie? Am I speaking? Do you mind me speaking for you? And he comes down Old South Road, then he crosses over, right there at the intersection of Old South Road, and goes over to the Inquirer Mirror. And then he has to cross over Sparks Lane, and then he gets onto the sidewalk right there in front of Millie's at the Rotary. But they have a gate there, but that's where they have all the picnic tables and the chairs and stuff too. So there's no accessible route back there for him to get to the ramp in the back to access the restaurant. So now, I don't know how you do it safely, Augie, right now, but
Well, I just have to go across the street into the parking lot.
You have to go right in the parking lot. That's the only way.
yeah. So you go past the Inquirer Mirror and then cross
Yeah.
over with no crosswalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's all the cars are always there, and they pull right up next to it. So
Yeah.
that's tricky. That would be
It's yeah, exactly. So I took pictures, and Mickey and I discussed it, and we thought the best solution was once you cross Sparks Avenue, and you're right in front of Millie's now, and it's a brick sidewalk there. We were thinking of extending that sidewalk along the side on Sparks Avenue, because right now it's just a dirt and grass path, so it's inaccessible. And to get anyone into the parking lot, and from the parking lot you can get through the parking lot and go up the accessible ramp. Am I correct, Augie, saying all this?
Yeah. Yeah.
that would help.
So I'm going to reach out to Drew Patnoid next week and see and ask him to meet us out there, and see if we can make that happen.
Got it.
Because there's no way for anyone in a wheelchair or anybody that has any ambulatory disability to get from the front of Millie's to the
Ramp.
the ramp. There's just
No
no
way.
safe way. So
So
hopefully
question
Go ahead,
for
Yeah.
Augie. I mean, there is a gate at the front of the building facing the Rotary to get into their sort of brick terraced area. did they kind of tell you that that's just not a route that they want you to go through? Because that would get you around the corner anyway.
No, they don't tell me that. It's like, I mean, there's no, I mean, there's no cutout, like there's no like ramp in the sidewalk. It's a curb cut.
But also, if you've ever looked at that place in the summertime or even in the fall, it's all tables and chairs, and it's not like a fixed table and fixed chairs. The
Yeah, you
chairs are
can't
all
get
over the
around
place,
there.
the tables are, there's no accessible route. Even if you tried to put it in there, if people
Yeah.
want to move here, I'm not even so sure, because they put them in there so tightly, that there would even be room for an accessible route, you know?
Yeah,
Got it.
So that's our thought, is to put a
Yeah.
sidewalk in there, if the town would do that.
yeah,
It's actually, you can see from the pictures we've looked at that it's a kind of a worn path anyway, so people are using that as a sidewalk.
Right.
You know, so and it is town property, I assume. It's right at the
Yeah.
end of the roadway. So it seems like a logical place for an accessible sidewalk.
yeah.
So, thank you for bringing that. And then Augie also brought to our attention, something natural parking lot is completely gravel. They have an accessible parking space sign, but there is nothing accessible about that parking lot. So I'm gonna reach out to Matt Fee and, ask them to put in an accessible parking space with an access aisle.
Okay.
And, I think Matt's a good guy. I think he'll do it for us. Or not even just do it for us, I think he'll do it.
Well, what
right?
about, Brendan, what about getting from the parking space to there's a ramp or a door or an entrance?
Augie, so what happens, I just looked at that, and there's actually like a brick, like a short walkway, like from when you're in the parking lot, like to step up into there, not step up, but just to go on, it just like,
Yeah, it was
up to the
it- the right side of the parking spot they have, because the ramp opens on the right side. So that was the problem, was I had to get down the ramp and go for the rocks and then go behind the van,
Yeah,
then go up the.
he wanted me to
the
back
bricks.
in, and I was like, I don't wanna back in, I hate backing in, whatever, but so
Oh,
it opens on the right.
Yeah.
We
got
were
it.
right in the rocks and he got stuck. And
Yeah.
were it not for this kind, strong guy who was entering, who asked if we needed help, I didn't know how I was gonna get him out of there, because him in the chair are like, 600 pounds. But once we got out of that, he went all the way up. He was disappointed that you can no longer go in there because it used to be cute back before COVID. They had fire, whatever. But he went all the way up, the ramping thing, all the way up to where you order. No problem with that. It was
Yeah.
just the gravel with the spot.
got it.
So if they don't understand, if they say, oh, it's paved, but it's like you'd have to back in. It doesn't make any sense in any.
Get the back
and-
into the spot.
Yeah, and anyone who has like a ramp in, they all.
Because the ramp opens on the passengers.
Yeah, they're all passenger side entry.
Yeah,
If they're
It's
not,
all
like,
gravel, the
some
whole
entry-
parking lot
some
is
entry
gravel.
trunk, But yeah.
yeah, the rear, yeah.
And the parking space is gravel, and there's no access aisle, I mean, so.
Yeah, that's the
Anyway,
problem.
I'll reach out to Matt Fee next week, about that. And then there was, one other place that Augie mentioned, like, the sidewalk adjacent to the Gaslight Theater.
Yeah,
There is, it's actually a cable TV manhole cover. It's a rectangular one.
yeah,
And
retail one.
it is probably like 6 inches
Yeah,
above the sidewalk, because the sidewalk now is like sloping down, so.
yeah, so we've done, the bricks are settling.
Say that again, Augie?
The bricks are sinking in.
Either they're
Oh,
like
yeah.
sinking.
Yeah, sinking, yeah.
I'm gonna ask, Drew to like re-brick that area to make it flush with that cable box so that you can go straight through.
Yeah, and I can get down fine, but to get up it is a pain in the butt.
Say that again, Augie.
It's a pain in the arse.
I mean, I can get down it, but I can't go up it.
No, I can see why you couldn't go up it.
Yeah,
Very evident.
yeah,
So I'll reach out to Drew about the rotary and the gaslight, and I'll reach out to
Thank
Matt
you.
Fee about something natural.
all right, thank you.
There you go. And the Congregational Church is gonna have 2 accessible parking spaces right adjacent to the church on that, what is it called? Court something,
Something on Court Lane or something.
Court Lane, which is actually a public road,
Church Court.
Church
So,
Court.
Yeah.
So they're gonna put in 2 accessible parking spaces there.
Nice.
All right. That's all I got to report today.
Okay,
Excellent.
thanks, Brenda. That's good,
Yeah.
good update.
Brenda.
Thank you.
We did skip over approving some minutes from November 1st. Do you want to look at those? So, did
I
you
thought-
send those out, Brenda? I assume you did.
The minutes?
The minutes. Anybody
I
have any
did.
questions about the minutes?
No, I thought they were good. I move approval.
Thank you, Georgia. Second by
I'll second it.
Mary Beth. All those in favor, Mary Beth,
Aye.
Augie,
Aye.
Georgia,
Aye.
and Rocky.
Aye.
And I'm in favor also, so done. All right, that's, unless there's something else anybody wants to throw in.
I have a question.
Sure.
Out where the Thai house is and where the secondhand shop is, all those buildings that are out there, is there not an accessible parking spot out there?
Um,
Is this on Old South Road?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thai
Um,
house.
That's where Karen has her second shop there.
Yeah.
Because I went out there, my wife the other day, and I was just looking, my wife said, I don't see any handicap spots here.
I'm gonna look into it.
I didn't know, how is that considered private?
No, it's open to the public. No.
All right, then.
private
No.
property, but it's not, but it still should have accessible spaces.
The
Right.
only signs they have is you can't park here signs.
Oh.
That's helpful.
But did you park this, Rocky? Please tell me you did, please.
Oh, I parked way down the road.
Did you park right down the road?
I parked far away. But you know what? My point being is I didn't need it, but someone who might have needed it, because you think about Karen's shop, when I go in to drop my stuff off, there's a lot of people who need that accessibility, who
Oh, yeah.
like to have a spot in front of it. And there's nothing over there that I could see.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't see it, but I looked for it.
I'm surprised there isn't. There should have been, and it's greater. There's more than 15 spaces, I assume.
Oh, yeah, there's probably closer to 50 spaces there.
Okay, yeah. You might need a couple of them.
I'll look at it next week, Rocky.
Put one right in front of Karen's.
Okay. I'm gonna pull right in front of one of those signs that says, do not park here.
Can't miss them. They're everywhere. Oh, we have to park there. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
No,
Okay.
but Brenda, you're gonna put all those things you said are all gonna be in the minutes, right?
Yes,
Okay, good. I just won't remember all of that.
that's all right. I mean, all the update stuff. Yeah, I'll totally put that in the minutes.
Yep, that'll be great. Good,
All right,
thank
no
you.
worries.
Thank you.
So we're gonna have a new member, actually, Rocky. Nancy Swain.
Wow, that happened just like that, didn't it?
It did, it really did. But anyway, Libby interviewed, I think it was 2 weeks ago today. And then I think there's like a 15-day waiting period. I don't understand the whole process, but it has to go before the select board. And I think on February 7th, she can be sworn in as a commissioner. I did reach out to her via email to attend the meeting and stuff. And I kind of thought that she might be here, but obviously she is not here. But
Okay, good.
she'll be our new commissioner, and that will give us 7 commissioners.
Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
That's all I got.
All right, so I guess that's probably all we need to talk about today. I think we can adjourn. Can somebody just give me a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Rocky. All those in favor?
Second. Yeah, aye.
Second that, Georgia.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
everybody. Nice
Have
to
a
Sorry,
see
good
you.
hard-
weekend.
Thanks for all your
Have a
hard
good
work,
weekend.
everyone.
Yep, take care.
Okay,
Yep.
bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Brenda.
Bye, Mary Beth. Bye.